Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, which was George Clooney's directorial debut, with a script by Charlie Kaufman based on the writings of a real person from Philadelphia.
Chuck Barris.
Named Chuck Barris, who passed away a couple of years ago, but a very interesting guy.
Yeah, to say the least.
I remember as a kid, maybe like when the Game Show Network was a thing, seeing the Gong Show. I don't know if you ever caught it.
Every once in a while.
It was just batshit insane.
Yeah.
I had to revisit it recently for my Paul Rubens video, where him and the guy that played Zombie, John Paragon, did a small stint on the Gong Show. So I was like, this show is so fucking bizarre. But at the same time, probably the precursor to any form competition, reality, American Idol, any of that shit. It begins with the Gong Show
a little bit,
because and the Gong Show is interesting because it seemed like they embraced the weird. Like, they wanted people to make a fool of themselves.
For sure.
It was not about, like, let's find actual talent. It was like,
definitely touches on that in the movie.
Right.
But yeah, when we watched this, because, as you said, Charlie Kaufman wrote the script, and he was not happy with what Clooney did with the movie.
Well, because Clooney was not always the first choice for the director. I think he was always involved to be an actor, but apparently it was set up with, Curtis Hanson was originally going to be the director.
Okay.
So, and Clooney was involved, and like they kept having problems finding a director. We have Sam Mendes, David Fincher, Darren Aronofsky almost directed it, but Brian De Palma was attached at one point. So it bounced around for a bunch, but I guess Clooney. Wow, look at this. Ben Stiller was in negotiations to star with Bryan Singer directing. So, I mean, everyone kind of wanted to do this movie, it seems, but no one can kind of agree on maybe the tone or whatever it was. Or...
It's a great story. It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. I like this movie. I didn't love it. I find... I know this is not the point of the movie, but I just find the real stuff way more interesting.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I find like him coming up with the concepts for these game shows and his life in Philadelphia and things like that.
I gotta read the book.
Yeah, he seems like a fascinating guy.
But I mean, is he saying this shit in the book?
I believe so.
Like it has to be, right?
Yeah. But I think it was, even later after the fact, he kind of got very coy about it. Like, was it true? I don't know. Like, it's largely accepted as bullshit.
Sure.
But he just seemed like a very interesting guy and had a very unique, creative vision for his own life, which is always interesting.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I thought this movie would be more extreme than it was, especially when you look at the people involved.
Okay. In what sense? What do you mean?
Because it's not. While it does hint that he's had this life of being a CIA hitman, it doesn't really just like go into it enough and get into like the wacky adventures as much as it just like it keeps that aspect of his life very closely tied to his life as a game show, because he does these like, what's the word, a chaperone. He uses the dating.
Well, let's start at the beginning. So, he kind of, there's a little bit of narration, but it starts off, where he's young. And did you notice who's playing the young Chuck Barris?
It was Michael Cera. Yeah.
I was like, is that Michael Cera?
Yeah.
But he kind
before he became a parody of himself.
Yeah. But he sets it up pretty early. He's just like, yeah, I'm pretty much a sexual degenerate.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of a funny scene where he's getting Tuvia,
right,
his little childhood friend. He's like, hey, how about you lick it? It tastes like strawberries or whatever. And then, he kind of sets himself up as like, this is my thing. And I found this real weird the first time I saw it. Do you notice in those early scenes, Clooney's got that fucking heavy saturation to the color?
Their color palette in this movie is really off.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's what Clooney was going for or if there was a disconnect with his first time as a director. I should say this about George Clooney as a director. I was bored out of my mind with two of his other movies. I didn't enough where I couldn't finish them. It was Leatherheads.
Oh, I heard that sucked.
And The Monuments Men.
I heard that sucked.
Which, like, you look at the concept and the cast of Monuments Men, it's
how do
like,
you fuck that up?
This looks great. I remember just being so bored by it.
What happened there?
I think it's just boring. If I remember, it's not very entertaining.
Well, let me see real quick, because I know after this he did Good Night and Good Luck, which I have not seen. Because I kind of, at the time, I'm like, oh, this looks pretty interesting. And then I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, I don't give a fuck about journalists. I'm like, I don't care. Especially from that era, too. Yeah, give me a sec here. I want to see. I just want to.
You're probably one of those guys that they have to give a whole fucking separate.
It's everything. I can't just get filmography here.
I got it if you want me to.
Yeah, what else has he directed?
So Confessions of a Dangerous Mind is his first, then Good Night and Good Luck, then Leatherheads, and then The Ides of March, then The Monuments Men, Suburbicon, The Midnight Sky, The Tender Bar, and The Boys in the Boat in 2023.
Wait, he directed The Tender Bar?
He did.
I was laughing so hard at that title because it's like, The Tender Bar, the bartender. I'm like, whoa. Dude, Suburbicon, I forgot about that movie. That movie looked horrible. And it was from like an unproduced Coen Brothers script.
Yeah.
And it looked so on the nose. Like,
I
well,
was-
his directorial
It's all over
career
the place.
is pretty garbage.
Yeah.
Like, how do you fuck up Monuments Men?
Yeah.
You got the book. You got the cast. You're rescuing art in Europe during World War II.
True.
How do you fuck that up?
Well,
What was it? What was so bad about it?
I just remember, again, I haven't seen it since it came out. It was when it was like available
Yeah.
on DVD probably. It was just,
Right.
I remember being bored by it. Like I just thought it wasn't very interesting and it was slow. And for what what the concept is, where there's like these schlubby kind of art historians who have to go around in World War II and try to save these. Like I wanted Indiana Jones, I don't know. So,
Fair enough.
but yeah, there is a very strange color correction in this movie, and it's very inconsistent.
Well, it gets dropped. I think he wants it for that era of like the early, let's say,
Maybe I feel like it comes back at different points. I don't
it's
know.
inconsistent. And that's one thing. It's like we talked about like these actors doing their first time director gigs. And it's like, you know, they want to throw every trick they've learned and seeing like, I saw Soderbergh do this, so
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. I think it works in this movie. I think for the weirdness of the story and like,
He's very lucky in that sense that this movie allowed him to experiment with the style.
Yeah, I agree.
And I will say, I think the cameos are a little distracting.
Some of them.
Yeah, I don't know. The big name star. Sam Rockwell's great, obviously.
He's very good. And apparently Clooney said, he's like, that's the only guy I had in mind.
Yeah, he was great. But then it was like, you got a quick shot of Brad Pitt and...
It's funny enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's used very well. But
Yeah, they don't say anything.
No. And I don't know. I don't know what I wanted more out of this movie that it didn't give me, but I think Chuck Barris, as is infinitely more fascinating than the shit he made up, if that makes sense. But obviously he was still alive when they made this movie, and he's in the very end of it. And
it's based on his book. So,
yeah,
I mean,
of course,
like,
of course. But I just love the idea of, this guy that just was kind of a bullshit artist and had fun with it and liked fucking with people. And again, coming up with
fucking.
Like fucking. There's a Gong Show one where it's the whole thing. It's these two girls, like I think they're dressed like farm girls type things, and they just come on stage and start to suck popsicles. But like before they even get down to it, you just hear a guy in the audience go like, "Oh yeah!" Like before they even like he just knew something was happening that like,
Oh, yeah.
or like he does like a woo, like it's just like an isolated sound that comes from the audience, but fun. There's also I completely forgot about this in. I'm gonna get the date. I think it was 2017. The Gong Show came back.
Yeah, with Dave Attell.
No, that's before, but like more recently than that, it came back. The Gong Show with Dave Attell was 2008.
Okay.
But hold on, I gotta find the exact date because this is I completely fucking forgot about this. 2017, it came back.
Wow.
And you know who hosted it? Mike Myers did it.
Oh, that's right.
As British comedian Tommy Maitland.
That's right.
And he did not break the whole time. Like, it was the whole thing was like he's a hack British comic.
You gotta love that.
I love Mike. Are you kidding?
I guess it went nowhere.
No, it didn't. But great concept.
That's funny.
That
Never
let me
break
play
character.
it as like this.
I love that. I always like that shit, like Tony Clifton.
Oh yeah.
It's so good. You
Yeah.
you never break.
And again, but like committing to the bit
Right.
of just like I am this legitimate like great. Love stuff
pretty
like
good.
that. I forgot about the Dave Attell one though.
Yeah, that really didn't go anywhere.
Oh wait, hold on. There's a whole section on Wikipedia that just says Popsicle Twins incident.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The act consisted of two teenage girls, both wearing shorts, sitting cross-legged on the stage floor and silently eating popsicles in a manner suggesting they were performing fellatio on the frozen treats.
I got the picture right. Look at her.
They're really going to town on them. The rest of this episode is available exclusively on our Patreon at patreon.com/almostcultclassics.